everybody, my name's Byron. I'm an instructor at the Crescent School of Gaming and Bartending in Las Vegas, and today we're going to talk about the payments and procedures of inside bets in roulette. So the bulk of this video is going to be shot from the first person view, so that way it'll be a little bit easier for us to drive home the concepts that we're trying to discuss here. Now there's a lot of information that we have to cover here, so this might be a little bit of a longer video, so make sure you grab something to write with, something to write on, and if you guys are interested in having us cover anything in further detail, just let us know down in the comments. So let's get started. All right, you guys, let's get straight into it. So first thing we're going to talk about is when do we pay the inside bets? So in our normal dealing procedure, we would end up spinning the ball, we would wave off the bets, mark the winning number, take all of the losing outside bets first, isolate the number, and then we would sweep the layout starting farthest from the wheel. Then we would pay all of the winning outside bets, and then at this point is when we would pay the winning inside bets. Now for this video's concept, we're going to make the bets very simple because we're more so going to be talking about the procedures involved in our working area and dealing with our stacks in general. So now that we understand when to pay, let's move on to the next section. Now sitting here in this example, we only have one single check that's sitting right there, so it's going to pay 35. Now your goal here, your job as a roulette dealer is to make sure that all of these colors here are 20 high at all times. There can only be a single stack of any color that is less than 20. If you have, obviously you don't have enough to make a full set, you should only have one stack that's less than 20. So the reason why it's important for these to be maintained at 20 high is because these are known as proven stacks. So for example here, I have to pay 35 here. So I should be able to come over here and grab two stacks, and that should be $40 or 40 units. Now at this point, I don't have to take this out and know, okay, that's 20, and I got 25, 30, 35. I don't have to do that. Because my job is to make sure these are 20 at all times, I can just take 5 off the top, show the camera so they can count what I've removed, and they know what remains. They know this is 35 remaining. And then from there, I can take this and push it off to the player. We'll talk about hand territories and stuff like that in a second, but we have to show what we're removing so that way they know what remains. That is the beauty of proven stacks. Now, when it comes to proven stacks, we can't necessarily do that when it comes to value checks. So for example, if I happen to have a green that ended up hitting, I would technically have to pay 35 green. So I would come over here and I grab my stacks. So I know that this is 20, I know this is 20. I would not be able to just remove 5 off the top and show it. Because these are worth more than $1, I literally have to cut them out. So I would cut out the full stack, and then I would cut this one out. So that's 20, 24, 28, 32, 33, 34, 35. And then set that aside. And this is how I would end up presenting it before getting my approval. Now, when we go to grab these stacks in order to pay a bet that's 35 units, I grab 2 stacks, and when I go to remove 5 units from the top and do that, there is a better way to go about that. It's known as penciling. So when it comes to penciling, what we do, and this is obviously if you have small hands, it's going to be difficult. If you guys want me to go more in detail on this, I can cover it. Just let me know in the comments if you guys want to see a more detailed video on how penciling works. But if you have bigger hands, you're just going to take your nail, put it flat. What I do is I take my middle finger and thumb, I kind of grab it like this, and what we do is we end up not putting it flat, kicking up, pressing it into the table, and dragging. And it will be able to remove however many we want. Obviously, it's going to take a ton of practice. So I'd be able to grab 2 stacks from here, I'd be able to pencil off what I need, and then be able to send that off to the player. So penciling is a very, very professional move, but it does take a lot of practice to get down. Because we have left wheel and we have right wheel, you want to be able to pencil with your right hand, you want to be able to pencil with your left hand. It takes a ton of practice, but it's super professional and really impressive if you can execute this like on an audition or something. Next topic on the docket is going to be game protection and hand territories. So to put it very simply, if you are paying the person who is over there, then you will pay them with your right hand. Everyone else is left hand. The reason why, as I've shown you in my previous videos, if we end up paying with our right hand on this side of the table, we're turning our back on our house value checks, and we don't want to do that. But if I use my left hand, I can stay open to the table, keep an eye on this player to make sure that they're not stealing. And if I use my right hand over here, I can stay open to this side of the table, so that way if there happens to be let's say a winning bet on this side of the table, I'll be able to keep an eye on that so no one can try and cheat or add money or whatever the case may be. Now, when it comes to pushing stacks across the table, so let's say in this example, I got that 35. I'm going to grab the stacks that I need. I'm going to end up removing 5. And then when I send it across the table, let's say I have to send it down there. When I send it across the table, I do not look in the direction that I'm sending it because someone who's here might be able to steal my money. So as I push in this direction, my eyes are looking at my money, but I'm using my peripheral vision to keep an eye on what's going on this side of the table. So it's kind of counterintuitive. Push this way, look at your money. It's a small detail, but it's really important in this game because game protection is paramount here. Next topic. Here we have 2 checks that are on the table. So that's going to pay 70. You guessed right. So because it's going to pay 70, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to grab what I need. I'm going to grab 4 stacks because usually we're always going to grab a little bit more than we need. Now, when I take these stacks, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to cut out 10 because I have 60 and 10. That's going to be my 70 that I need. But then it begs the question, at what point does this go on top or stay on the table? That's what we're going to talk about here. Pretty simple concept. If this short stack happens to be 10 or less, then you can put it on top of your stacks. However, if it happens to be 11 or more, then it would be its own stack. This is a very trivial rule. If you really want to be nitpicky, that's kind of the rule that you're kind of supposed to follow. You don't have to follow the rule, but it is a guideline for you to follow in case you want to. So now we're going to talk about the 2-color rule. So in this example, we happen to have the player who has all of the yellow over there. We only have a few stacks over here. Now the payment here is going to be 70. We have 2 straight up. So what some people might do is they might come over here with their limited number of stacks. They might grab a green, they might grab a red, and then they'll come over here and they'll pick up 2 stacks of that color. And they'll set it up just like this. So now we have 30 and 40 is 70. However, the problem here is the fact that we have 1 color, 2 colors, 3 colors. 3 colors is considered an unprofessional way of paying in this game. You want to limit the colors that you pay to 2, 1 or 2. 3 is considered excessive and considered not professional. So how we would fix this, what we would do instead is we'd get rid of this one. We could just do 2 and a single stack. 50 plus 20 is 70. There's a lot of examples like this, but anytime you have to pay something, at least on the inside for sure, try to limit your colors to 2. That's going to be really impressive on an audition too, especially if you get somewhat of a tricky payout. This will take practice. Now the next topic that we're going to discuss here is the approval calls that are involved whenever we're paying an inside bet. So there are usually 2 things that will create an approval call. One thing here is if the payment is $100 or more. Your casino, that limit might be different, but we usually will teach if the payment is $100 or more on an inside bet, you need to get floor approval. The way you would do that is, for example, here, let's just say that we had this bet here. We have 3, so this would pay 105. And let's say, let me grab this. Let's say I happen to have that set up here. So I have my 105. For my approval, all I would say is 105, really loud. Wait for floor to come and inspect it after they verify that the amount is correct. Then I can take this, throw it on top, and send that off to the player. So that's case number 1. If the hit is $100 or more, it calls for approval. If the inside bet is not $100, but you have value checks of red or higher that are in the payment. The fact that value checks are going out, even though the total is not $100 or more, this will also trigger an approval call. The proper call here for in this case, if we happen to have, let's say we just had 2 checks here, so just 70. We would have it set up just like this. This is a proven stack, so we don't have to cut it down. That is a little bit different if this is worth more. Your proven stacks are treated just like value checks if they happen to be worth more than $1 in most cases. So you would still have to cut it out. But since it's only $1, we can leave it standing. The call in this case would be the unit count you're sending, so 70 in this case, and how much of a certain color is going over. We usually will call the top 2 colors that are going. So I'll say 70, 2 green over is the call. 2 green over, reason why we say that is because after we receive approval, we'll take this green and we will put it over the color that we're sending. And then from here, we will send that out. Another cool little note, ignore the hit. Let's just say we had another color. Let's say we had 2 blacks and 2 greens and a stack. So, for example here, we would say 270, 2 black, 2 green, over. That would be your call. Floor would come by, they'd say, go ahead. Now, if we had red involved, let me grab some of that. So if we happen to have red involved, so let's just say we have a hit just like this. So I got 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75. So the hit here would be 275, 2 black, 2 green, over. We'll ignore the red, just call the top 2 colors or the 2 highest value colors in that case. So those are your 2 conditions. A hit of $100 or more triggers an approval. Any value checks going out on an inside win also triggers approval. Some casinos, an outside bet when you pay value might trigger approval as well. But the places that I've worked, in my experience, same with Erika, we would just only get approval for something like this. So we've covered all the cases where you have chips that are being paid, but what if you have a check that is being paid? That's the topic we're going to talk about here. Players can bet those too. So if it hits, how are we going to handle that? I'm not going to go too in depth on exactly how we're going to calculate the amount. That's a different video because that takes a while. We're going to more so talk about the announcements that are involved regarding paying this. But long story short, if we have 1 red, we're going to pay 35 red, essentially. So if I have 1 red, I'm going to pay 35 red, which also you want to memorize what 1 red pays, which is 175. Just having that locked away as a straight up is going to be really helpful. So what I could do is I could just grab 35 red. Yet again, there are better ways to go about it. This is just a very simple overview. We're going to go more in detail in a future video. So I'm going to grab my red. I'm going to go. Now, because these are worth more than $1, I have to cut this out. So that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So that's 35 to 1. That's the correct payment. Now, when I go to send this out, if the player bets value, so they bet red, green, black, whatever the case is, we are going to pay them in value because they don't have a non-value assigned to them because they're betting value. So if they bet value, we pay in value, our call out is in value. How much money am I sending? So I would say 175. That's it. You could announce that it's all in red. Either way, that's fine. You can say 175, all red. They're cool with that too. As long as you make the announcement of the total dollar value that you're sending out, they're fine. So now let's say that instead of this right here, it was a black. Because that's 20 units of red. So that's 20, 25, 30, 35. So this right here is also 35 units. But Floor needs to know about that black going out. So the call here is going to be 175, 1 black going out. That's it. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. But let's see what it looks like with a green. All right, so this time we have a green, same case. Let's just bring out the payment. Like I said before, we're going to talk about this later. There are better ways to pay. We'll get into that later. So I'm going to bring this out. Now in this case, this is another one that's really good to memorize. A green straight up is going to pay $8.75. Just remember that. Sometimes people use this as an audition question for roulette. So just memorize a green straight up pays $8.75. This is going to be 500, 100 each, and then a quarter each, or $25 each. So I have my $8.75. So if I had to go pay this, what I would announce is $8.75, 1 purple, 3 black going out. We'll always announce just the top 2 colors. Ignore that one. Usually the black and purple are the ones they care about the most. Obviously, this will be an approval call. After you receive approval, we'll go ahead and stack this up with the highest value sitting on top, because that's what we do in roulette. And we'll take this and we'll send that off to the player. Now I have a question for you. If this happened to hit, what color do you pay first? Now this is a good question, and we're going to cover that in the next lesson. So make sure you're paying attention for that one. Just so you guys know, we ended up partnering with a website called Buy Me a Coffee. So if you guys are interested in contributing, go ahead and click the link in the description and you could do just that. On top of that, the Crescent School of Gaming and Bartending is also trying to buy you a coffee. If you guys jump inside there and you inquire about the school, letting them know that Byron or Erika sent you, that's the key. They'll give you a coffee on the house and they'll try and see if you can get approved to get all of this for free. If that's the case, then you might be able to get $500 in your pocket as well if you get approved. So think about that. Now, if you guys are interested in continuing your education with this class, we do have the next video up, maybe not now, but in a little bit, right over here. Go ahead and click that link, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson.